Trump, a convicted felon. Reaction to it yesterday, let me just read some of the stuff. 34 counts, we know it. Up to 136 years he can go to jail. The $130,000 payment to the adult film actress Stormy Daniels, et cetera, et cetera. When you saw that, Dave, your reaction to it?
Well, I mean, look, and I know this is like a disclaimer, but it is just the truth, because just so you guys know where I'm coming from, I am not a Trump supporter. And a lot of my audience wishes I was. I've been a sharp critic of Donald Trump through his entire administration, not for the reasons that the corporate press is a critic of Donald Trump, for different reasons, but look, this is just so obvious. I mean, for anybody who's being honest with themselves, look at this. This is a maybe misdemeanor that it's a glorified misdemeanor that they've turned into 34 felonies. It is totally appalling. This is a result of the justice system being weaponized, and they had this in New York where they know, I mean, getting a jury to convict Donald Trump in New York is pretty easy. People hate his guts there. And it's a major moment in the history of the United States of America. You know, one of the things that I hear a lot of Trump critics will say, which to me is the most, you ever hear the red pill, blue pill analogy? Like, you know, in the Matrix, you either have the red pill or the blue pill. It's the most blue pilled thing I've ever heard, where they go, no president is above the law. You go, except all of them are. You know what I mean? Like, all previous presidents are above the law, and there's been major crimes committed by presidents throughout the entire history of the United States of America. I mean, obviously, people know that George W. Bush and Dick Cheney instituted torture. Barack Obama had American citizens drone bombed without charges pressed against them. I mean, there's all types of things that you could prosecute former presidents for, and there's all types of war crimes that you could prosecute Donald Trump for. But they don't go after him for that, because then their next guy would be open to being prosecuted for war crimes. So they're going after him for every little thing that they can get. Look, the United States of America, our government has done some bad things in our past. We've lied the American people into wars many, many times, many, many times. World War I, Vietnam, Iraq. This is something different. We've never done this before. We've never weaponized the justice system against a former sitting president of the United States who, by the way, was framed for treason by his intelligence agencies while he was president. And now they're weaponizing the Justice Department against him while he is the overwhelming frontrunner to win the next election. It's a truly wild time to be alive.
Chris.
The reason they don't go after presidents is because of presidential immunity, which they're litigating right now. So the idea of you make war decisions and this and that sounds great, let's get them. It's not how the law works. It's never worked that way, that's why you haven't seen it. I agree with your analysis of this case. I've never liked it. I don't like that Bragg jumped the line because I think that he wound up ruining what was a legitimate legal look at what happened in Georgia, which now I don't know that it's going to happen because of that immunity argument, although I think it will lose. This was a misdemeanor that was trumped up to felonies. To call it 34 counts is laughable because the 34 counts are different checks that were signed to pay back Cohen. This district attorney has no problem knocking down significant felonies to misdemeanors. He did it 70% of the time. Now, the people of New York City can judge him, and if they like the policy, he made an argument why he was going to do that. But the same guy who does that then did this to Trump. He campaigned on going after Trump. And you don't make this case against anybody else. And the same thing goes for the Attorney General in New York. And yes, she went after my brother, so maybe I'm just saying it because she did that. I'm not, but have at it. You don't bring the case of two sets of books that you brought against Trump. Did he have two sets of books? Yes. Did he have Michael Cohen pay off these ladies and try to hide it? Yes, he did it. Should it have been prosecuted as a felony? Absolutely not. Does it embolden his case that everything that happens in America is corrupt? Yes, and I think that's a big tragedy. So what does this mean to him? My analysis of it is this. The only way it hurts him is if in specific states, people who are called persuadables right now, which is really not fair because what they really are is, in my interviews with these populations, I don't know which one of these is more frightening to me So I don't know yet. That's not really a persuadable. A real persuadable is, I like what Dave is saying, but not 100%. If Cuomo could help me a little bit more on these issues, I may go for him. That's a persuadable. This is just people who are just so disgusted, they don't know which way to go. This may move the needle in states with that population in a way that could hurt Trump. But I think he's going to raise a lot of money off it. He already has. And I think it was a case that should not have been brought. And it was brought for the wrong reasons.
All right, just a couple things on that real quick, because I don't agree that it's presidential immunity that's the reason why previous presidents haven't been gone after. I mean, look, when Barack Obama was first elected, remember this is not Barack Obama the president, or it's the very beginning, but this is Barack Obama the candidate in 2008 who was talking about ending wars and closing Gitmo and reinstituting habeas corpus and all these type of things.
Right.
And there was a lot of pressure on him from his left-wing supporters to prosecute George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and other top members of that cabinet for war crimes that had clearly been committed. And Barack Obama gave a speech about it. And he said, in it, he conceded, he goes, yes, we tortured some folks.
That's good.
He just said it. And he goes, but now is the time to look forward, not backward. Which is a weird thing about prosecuting crime. Typically, you have to look backward in order to do it. But my point is just that, listen, the way things really work in the real world is that at the highest levels of power, there's no such thing as law, okay? At the highest levels of power, all that matters is what's their political will to do. And the truth is there was no political will to try George W. Bush and Dick Cheney for war crimes. There is political will to stop Donald Trump for this. And look, I know you're a lawyer, and I'm sure you would kind of agree on this, that, look, if you had Donald Trump on videotape stabbing someone or something like that, or you had some clear crime that he had committed, and you went, look, we typically don't go and prosecute former presidents, but look, I mean, this is just so egregious, we cannot. This is, every single one of these cases are novel legal theories where they've come up with some philosophical way
well,
where
not
they
all
can
of them,
spin,
but these two New York ones, yes.
Okay, fine. Where they can spin this into something that they never would prosecute otherwise. Just so everybody understands, a hush money payment isn't illegal.
No.
It's not illegal to pay someone to say, hey, don't tell anyone about this.
It's just a contract.
That's right, it's just a contract. What they're saying is that this was a campaign expense and he didn't itemize it on his business records the right way. And with Cohen's testimony in this, I mean, it's pretty wild that they actually got
Well, they got him
convictions
because
out
of
this.
the checks, okay? Because Cohen, they had to, I mean, you can't believe Michael Cohen. But the problem was, this happened. The tape, you have Trump and Cohen talking about it happened. And Cohen is a rapacious liar. That's true. And you cannot like him for that. But Trump did it. It's just not a felony. And yes, they've gone after people for having two sets of books. Not people like Trump and in these circumstances. Now, what I get beaten up for when I'm in a different room is that I say there's a thing called prosecutorial discretion. All right, the idea that if I have the facts on Dave Smith, I'm going to prosecute him 10 times out of 10. It's not true. There has to be policy involved. Is this something I really care about? Is this the kind of crime we're trying to stop? We live this in your state too. DUI. DUI used to be no big thing. They had 3 different levels of it. Then all of a sudden it became a big policy. And now we all know, I'm sure in our own personal lives, God forbid that happens, how big a deal it is, and they're definitely going to come for you. These crimes are not those things. The Georgia case is something different. I don't know that you'll ever get to hear it. I do see it a little differently, though. I believe that this society does have administration of justice under law. Is it perfect? Of course not. Compare it to other places, looks a little better. But we haven't figured this out. You said novel legal theory as kind of like a pejorative about those New York cases, and I think you're basically right about that. Certainly this one that we're talking about. But there is this issue of this constitutional mechanism that if you're a president, you have to be impeached and removed, and then you are subject to the law. So, and then people will say, I don't know if you guys followed the Supreme Court thing. It was actually pretty interesting, where he was like, so what if Dave and I are running for the same office and he decides to just shoot me in the head while he's president of the United States? Is that okay? And his guys were like, yeah.
Especially Joe Biden can't lift a gun.
but he'll take you out back. He'll take you out back. So, you know, look, here's something that I think I struggle with a lot in this business. And this is a Jordan Peterson quote. You have to ignore single factor explanations for complex situations. It's tempting. You want them. You want it to be simple. You want it to be obvious. But very often it isn't. Even this situation with Trump, which I think politically kind of net probably winds up helping him and hurts all of us. Bill O'Reilly suggested to me on my show last night that Joe Biden should do the right thing for the country and pardon Donald Trump. He said he should call Governor Hochul, state crime. He should call Governor Hochul and say, pardon Joe Biden. Thank you, genius. Well, if you'd let me finish, you would have heard it. So, but here's the problem with that. What happens if Joe Biden did that? Joe Biden pardons Trump of any federal crimes, okay? And Hochul clears him of this shit so we don't have to live through the sentencing. All right? And just so you know, when he is sentenced, July 11, he's going to appeal. They're going to go to sentencing. Even if he is sentenced, now I was wrong about this case, I thought it would be hung. And I don't think the guy's going to sentence him to time. I could be wrong again. But even if he is sentenced to time, he's not, you're never going to see him in a jumpsuit. He is going to appeal, and there is no reason to have a first-time offender incarcerated for an offense like this, even though it's a felony, it's an E felony.
Well, listen, I'll say...
It's 34, but it's sentencing, it's going to be the same transaction.
I would
it's
say
not that
this,
they caught
right?
him 34 times.
I would say if you zoom out, right, to kind of try to appreciate the Trump phenomenon. And again, I've never voted for Donald Trump, and I'm not planning on voting for him this time. I'm a big critic. I think he failed in a lot of important ways. I think his appointments were terrible. Government spending going up every year was terrible. His handling of COVID was terrible, okay? There are some things I like about him. But if you zoom out and just try to look at this, what Donald Trump really embodied, and I think this was something that you guys at CNN during the rise of Donald Trump could never quite grapple with, and I think this is something that in the corporate media in general they had a tough time grappling with, was that people were so furious at the establishment that they went with the biggest middle finger they could get toward the establishment. And he basically was pointing his finger at DC and saying, drain the swamp, these guys are all stupid, they all make bad deals, I'm very smart, I'm gonna make great deals.
Yes.
They've ruined the country, which this was, even at the center of his slogan, Make America Great Again, there's an accusation in there, right? That's like, you ruined the country.
Yes.
And now I have to come back and save it. And this made everybody in the political and media class so furious that they lashed out and attacked Donald Trump. And then, of course, that made him that much more popular with his base, because the whole reason they liked him was because there was a big middle finger to you guys.
Right.
And it's not like social conservatives thought Donald Trump was their guy.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they were like, yeah, he really believes in Jesus or something like that.
They hated him.
But then, as he starts pissing off all these powerful people, so that he has the entire media class against him. Then you have, between the Hillary Clinton campaign, the Steele dossier, and the CIA and the FBI getting involved, they all basically try to frame him for treason. And they do this for years.
You don't think Comey gave Hillary a mortal injury near the end of that election?
I think he was, yes, I do, but I think he was forced into it.
Really?
Yeah, I think
That's
basically,
interesting.
well, listen, let me just make the point I'm making. We could get into that if we want to. But as you look at this, so they frame this guy for treason. He ends up beating that, although they certainly boxed him in and he wasn't able to get through a lot of the things he wanted to. Then, in the year 2020, you have what is close to a color-coded revolution as you can get in the United States of America, between the protests in the streets, the attempted false flags like they did with Governor Whitmore, the October surprise, trying to frame Donald Trump supporters, like this is what the anti-lockdown Trumpers like. They overhaul the way we do voting in this country, feel however you feel about that, and Donald Trump is removed. Since then, he announces he's coming back running for president, and then the Justice Department is weaponized against him. His home in Mar-a-Lago is raided. All of these cases come down against him. I know Tucker Carlson made this point once, but we are escalating here. Like, and it's you kind of wonder, if you map this thing out, where exactly are we going? And it seems to me, from my perspective, that the most powerful people who really run the government, and this never comes up on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, but shocker, American people who are actually a lot smarter than the people of those networks think you are. Did you know that the government isn't run by democratically elected officials? Were you aware that there's shadowy three-letter agencies that have much more power than the democratically elected officials? Well, those people are letting you know that Donald Trump is not acceptable, and he will not be president of the United States again. Now, what they're prepared to do to make that happen, well, yeah, that's the big question. We'll see. I wouldn't put anything past him.
Look, I don't know about the them. I've been doing this 25 years. I'm still trying to get my head around the idea that the FBI is a bunch of lefties. I can't tell you.
They're not lefties.
I can't tell you how different that is than my experience. Good men and women do the job for the right reason 9 times out of 10. I never really had a good relationship with the FBI until Trump was president, because all of a sudden he started attacking all the institutions, in my opinion, unfairly in a lot of cases. And all of a sudden I was defending these people who I always hated because they would never give me any information about their cases.
You know, I think there's too much at CNN defending the institutions, you know? Maybe that's not the job.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a weird, look, that's a good argument to make. And it was a weird situation to be in, because I've never had anybody in power attacking everything around them unless it served his purposes in the moment. And it was definitely very odd, even though I had a very strong indication going to those rallies that we were missing the value of his celebrity and how important it was for people to have an agent for their animus. And I thought he was going to win, and I was right. I thought he was going to lose. That was pretty easy. I mean, you know, the election wound up being very close, but he was in bad shape, and people wanted him out. So that wasn't. I think this time he's got a very good chance to win. I don't know about deep state.
Trump's got a very good chance to win.
Of course he does.
Well, if there was a fair election held today, I think there's no question Trump would win.
I'll tell you what, though. I don't know, because it's going to be very close, and unfortunately, the election comes down to about 30 counties in the United States, and there's only one reason for that, and it's something that you probably believe more than I do. The party structure in this country is not a creature of the Constitution. We all know that, right? It's not a creature of law. It's just a tradition. It's a choice. The problem is it's a club structure where everybody in power has got to be in one of the clubs, right? That's the problem that the GOP is dealing with right now. You can't say you don't like Donald Trump because you're going to lose a primary, because very few people vote in primaries. The state party controls the primary, and they're going to beat you because he's going to cut their money if they don't come after you. And I'm not faulting him for that. That's the way the game is played. If I could wave a wand, you know, and not deal with anything that matters to all of us, like the health of our kids and our families and stuff, but our collective polity, if we could get rid of the two-party system in this country, we'd be in a way better place. And here's why. I'm not a huge fan of polls. You can't find a poll where you won't find 3 out of 4 of Americans have the same concerns. 3 out of 4. Common concerns about what you want to see happen, what you like, what you don't like. It's never on the agenda. It's never discussed. One of my problems with this case is we got at least 2 weeks now of lawfare coverage. And 2 more weeks where nobody's going to talk. We're not talking about long COVID, that's for sure. We're not going to talk about any of these things that happened during the pandemic. Nobody's going to bring it up. Bobby brings it up. When Bobby comes up, when RFK Jr. comes on the show, he says he would be in favor of enlisting a pandemic review. I have not gotten a response from the Trump or the Biden campaigns about it. And I don't blame them. If I were them, I would want to move on also. But if you could get rid of the two-party system in this country, I'm telling you, you'd be in a much better place.
Okay, so let me give you a couple dates here. So the date that they put it for the judge is when?
July 11th.
July 11th. Okay, the debate is June 27th.
Yeah,
the RNC is, I believe,
4
July
days after
15th,
that. Yeah.
Right? How much do you think it's intentional for them to put the hearing 4 days before to make it unpredictable that maybe, just maybe, they're watching right now? Democrats would only do this assuming this is going to hurt Trump, right?
Right.
But reports just came out, Rob, if you can pull up the reports from CBS. In the month of April, he raised $50 million,
right,
compared to $25 million Biden. Just in the first 14, 15 hours of what they announced, he's raised $53 million.
Yeah. I'm not
You guys
surprised.
hear that? $53 million he's raised in less than 24 hours, okay? And this could end up being a $400 million next 4 weeks.
Well, with this trial, they've undone all of the re-examination of Trump of the last, let's say, year. People have been watching what's going on and figuring out what's going on, watching how he's behaved. I believe all of that was undone with this, because his numbers have been struggling. You know, anybody should be killing Biden, okay?
You guys got 1 day a week. He's got Wednesdays.
But I'm saying just the idea of him should be enough. But all of that review that had kind of mitigated his strength in this country has been erased by this. I'm not surprised he's raising the money. You can get ready to boo in 3, 2. I don't believe they timed it out to make people think he's not going to show up at the convention.
You don't think they timed it out?
I don't. I mean, this is a very typical calendar.
Okay. I mean, it's a position to take. They could have done it.
Well, that's true. Nothing about the case is typical. That's true. I just try very hard to take things on their face with these things. And very often the truth is more than enough. What's going to be obvious is going to be more than enough. If they sentence him, it's just such a bad policy move. Now, I know that when I look at my phone, it will light up. Though luckily, most people in the center and left haven't hooked on to Patrick yet, but they will. They will. Because if you want to hear voices and selection, very few people deliver the way he does for Valuetainment. So they'll start. So the clips will come out, and then the left will attack me for suggesting that there was something, that this was different because no one's above the law. And he did it, and he finally got what he deserves, and blah, blah, blah. Because I've been getting beaten up for weeks during this trial, which, by the way, is okay.
If you're watching this, the way you get to vote for today's debate so far, because we got a bunch of other issues we got to talk about right now with Trump, convicted felon, migration, dual citizenship. I'm not done. We're just getting started right now. You get to vote by sending a Manect to Dave Smith and to Chris Cuomo, if you can put their Manect up. Ask him any questions, anything you agreed with, disagreed with, papers, articles, whatever it is. This is the way to get connected with them. They're both on Manect, and they actually get back to people very quickly.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.